Good afternoon. Welcome to another edition of the 411 Talk Zone Radio Show, Red Pill Edition. My name is Leon Jones, and today I want to talk about solipsism, emotion, and arguments. Because one thing I will tell you as a red pill man, or even a MGTOW, or an IBMOR, you do not argue with women when you wish for them to comprehend, comply, or agree. You cannot argue against woman's feelings. You can only manipulate them. Argument necessitates reason, but reason is ineffectual in conflict with women. Now, when it comes to non-political matters, where a man will yield to superior logic, a woman will not. And so man must manipulate woman's emotions in a way that makes her cooperative, or he should not engage her at any level. Now, if a woman is so entitled or indignant and you find yourself unable to escape her compulsion to argue, you will be wise to engage her as a Machiavellian rather than a logician. Man must remember that when lured into arguments with a woman, he is at battle. The dispute at hand is Machiavellian, not rational, a game, or it is not even a civilized debate. The man believes the argument is about mutual cooperation via the discovery of truth rather than the assuagement of the involved woman's emotional state. Basically operates on a doomed axiom. A man's desire to problem solve is fundamentally incapable with a woman's desire for catharsis. Now, men are quite wrongfully taught that they should placate women's emotions or engage in mind-numbing futile attempts to reason with them. To do either is to forfeit power before conflict even begins. Now, such strategies are basically losing propositions. Now, men should neither placate nor reason with a distressed woman, but rather he should be charming enough to keep conflict superficial. When argument cannot be avoided, he again needs to be Machiavellian enough to belittle her. He should not, under any circumstance, argue back and forth with any degree of seriousness. For arguing against a woman's emotional state is as foolish as it is masochistic. Now, if conflict is unavoidable and reason is impenetrable, then all you have left as a man is to assert dominance. Now, this is man's only recourse when a woman is trying to dominate him psychologically with her emotions. Because once her emotions have settled, it is wise to explain your reasoning and expectations as a way of guiding the woman, should you care for her. Only when you care for her. But only outside the confines of argument, never within the heat of it. Now, naturally, if the woman in question is insignificant, such paternal patience is unnecessary and aftercare is discretionary. Now, when an argument begins, a woman's emotions ensure her uncooperativeness. When a woman stands on the precipice of dissatisfaction, her imperviousness to reason makes her the mere concept of argument in name. Now, the key to cooperation, therefore, lies in keeping her emotional state very positive, just as one would not build a dam for water when there's a volcano surrounding it. They would be wise not to attempt reasoning with a distressed woman. And yet, a woman's feelings are quick to sour. Even the tamest critiques and concerns can result in ill feeling, largely by merit of woman's inability to handle such things. And so the trap of arguing with a woman is always there. Should a man express himself without filtering himself, in other words, a man is just being raw, telling her what he really thinks, because often a man knows not how to benign comments result in such grave offense, but such unsophisticated sensitivity is intrinsic to femininity. Now, one would not be mistaken for thinking I am describing the insecure rather than women per se. But then it would be disingenuous to assert that the vast majority of women are anything but insecure. So are these things traits of women or traits of the insecure? I would say both. But then I would also assert that women are intrinsically insecure and that many arguments take place because a woman is demanding her insecurity to be assuaged in spite of the overwhelming importance of the issue at hand. Now, men who exhibit similar behaviors are likewise womanlike in their mental frailty. Now, when you argue against a woman's feelings, you enter her frame by tactically accepting her validity of her emotions premise. Acknowledgement is all that it takes to give the irrationality of her emotion credence, and therefore such acknowledgement should be avoided. Now, much of our mutual annoyance, a woman's feelings are typically anything but valid. You see, to a woman, whatever she feels, in spite of why she feels it, is valid. Women care not for the why behind their feelings, but simply the fact that they are feeling. As such, the presence of a feeling is proof enough of its validity to a woman in a sort of infinite solipsistic loop that she intuits the feelings. And the feelings basically exist, and when they exist, and I'm talking about the feelings, therefore, the solipsistic loop is valid. Now, if she feels a negative feeling, regardless of the reasonableness of your position, she will blame you for it. In this matter, she disregards the importance of cause and effect because such things are irrelevant to her emotion solipsism. As cause and effect take place outside of the female mind, it is irrelevant to her. Solipsism cares not for the abstraction. Now, while one could posit that blame qualifies as an investigation into the why of how she feels, what she does, it really isn't. Because the blame given is entirely arbitrary to the merit or by merit of his solipsistic nature. Owing to a lack of abstraction, it is the blame or the simple blame attribution and affirmation for the self-perpetuation of her emotional state. So it is not investigative in the cognate sense of the word. Now, if she were truly interested in the why she feels what she does, she would look beyond blame, analyze her actions for wrongdoing, and come to a reasoned judgment on if her feelings were a reasonable or an unreasonable response. If she finds them to be unreasonable, she would disregard them and show interest in solving the initial issue. She would do this rather than allow her feelings to take precedence over the issue which triggered them. Now, of course, rather than allow her feelings to take precedence over the issue which trigger them, of course, this is not how women work. It is the feeling born of the issue that takes priority, not the issue itself. A minority of women can do this retroactively, but I have known not a woman who can do this in the moment. Dare I say, none can. Now, say a female colleague is making grave errors in her work and you give her suggestions on how to improve her technique. All too commonly, if suggestions were not given with the great euphemism in diplomacy, you would cause offense. As such, you could see how easily the premise for a woman's feelings is flawed, because it is not difficult to offend a woman, and neither does she need a logical reason to be offended. Feeling bad is offense enough. And tolerant to stress as women are, it is laborious inadvertence that occurs with great frequency. And so it is the woman's nature to constantly misdirect the man away from his criticisms and concerns, and rather to vilify him for daring to infringe on the sanctity of her emotion well-being. Where a man will endeavor to make his original point, stick to the point, have the point recognized, and come to an arrangement over his concern, the woman cares only about how his point made her feel, not the point itself. So man doubles down on his reasoning, provoking more negative feeling in the woman, which in turn doubles down on the importance of her emotional state. And so the woman will neither address the point nor give the point much thought, much to the complete torture of the well-intentioned man, but naturally this leads to endless frustration and only serves to further alienate the two parties. Women are quick to offend, quick to anger, and slow to reason, even in the absence of hostility. Indeed, it is such traits that are often the cause of hostility. While man wants to pursue what he believes to be a problem that needs addressing, the only problem worthy of addressal in a woman's mind is the maintenance of a positive emotional state. While the man continues to attempt fixing the original issue, the woman becomes more annoyed because her emotions are being ignored. And so, at such a crossroads, male and female nature is at odds. Man wants to pursue what he believes to be truth or correct, while woman wishes to maintain her emotional well-being at any cost. It is for these reasons we refer to women as the most responsible teenager in the house. They cannot cope with stress in the way that men can, so they cannot reason nor argue as well as men can. Remember, one need not be superior. Well, you don't need to be the superior logician to win in an argument, as the powerless in which women argue stands testament. You merely need to be more psychologically dominant. An upset woman or an upset woman will dominate the frame of an interaction by maintaining your mutual focus on an indignant investigation of her feelings, particularly the source of her feelings. And of course, in argument, it is you who is the undisputed stimulus for her negative feelings. In this frame of mind, absolutely nothing matters to a woman other than her need to understand her feelings and receive validation of their legitimacy. Now, I'm repeating this point with great frequency, but it is important to be internalized. Why? Because your point is irrelevant to her if it elicits emotional discomfort. Again, I am repeating this point with great frequency, but it is important, it is internalized, because as a man, your point is irrelevant to her if it elicits emotional discomfort. Now, a woman does not care if she is in the wrong or has disobeyed or betrayed, for a creature who does not excel at logic is neither cognate or appreciative of such thing, even when upset, even at the best of times. Women struggle to balance reason with emotion. That's when they're trying. Now, in argument, they're not even trying. She will not give in. Solipsism sees to it that women are stubborn. Arguments nourish women. They feed her emotionally. Bar the histrionic man, argument absolutely exhausts men. Not only that, but being the party far more privy to the realm of reason, it is the likelier you will give in more than she will give in, because her indignance will out-endure not only your reasoning, but likewise your desire to even advocate for yourself. And if you get angry, that's right, if you get angry, your anger will be used to immediately invalidate your disagreement while simultaneously validating the credibility of her histrionics. Now, your anger will be turned against you. You will be painted as the oppressor and her the victimized. You will be made to feel guilty for your anger, and then following from this premise, your anger will be used to retroactively scapegoat you for her unacceptable decorum. Now, the narrative put forth will be that it's your fault she's upset, even if it isn't. Even if you know with your full faculty of reason that such thing is ridiculous, women just don't care. Now, as I summarize this video, It is not in your interest to work against her emotions, but rather you should work in tandem with them, leveraging her emotions, change them so that they are conducive to rather than defiant of your goals. Know how to make her feel good, and her agreement will be yours. Argue against her emotions, and no matter how grand and well articulated your points are, she will never agree. Equity and reasonableness are of minor relevance to a woman's emotional self satisfaction. Women do not sacrifice their emotional well being to do what is morally or reasonably right, but they sacrifice what is morally or reasonably right as to fulfill their emotional needs. Again, women do not sacrifice their emotional well being to what is morally or reasonably right, but rather they sacrifice what is morally or reasonably right as to fulfill their own emotional needs. And this is why I say women are petulant children. They are very narcissistic, some schizophrenic in nature. A number of them have histrionic personality disorders. Now, by manipulating her feelings to something more beneficial to yourself, you can change her frame or even pull her into yours. This is why when receptive, amused mastery is excellent, arguing a woman's emotions with reason, as is man's predilection, or we call it predilection, excuse me for the mispronunciation of that word, it's predilection, is basically a losing proposition. Again, arguing a woman's emotions with reason, as is man's predilection, it's basically a losing proposition. Because for her emotions, they are far too visceral to be swayed by the passionless of reason. Again, the passionlessness of reason. And this is why the heart cares not what the head thinks, and a truer thing could not be said for women. Again, for her emotions, they're basically far too visceral to be swayed by the passionlessness of reason, because the heart cares not what the head thinks, and a truer thing could not be said for women. And guys, I tell you, if you're a red pill man, this is why I always say, you don't argue with women. You will never win. And I did a video on that previously. Now, I'm going to be making more videos, and I'm going to talk about the psychological stage of men and women. But guys, this is why you go red pill or MGTOW. Because when you deal with this nonsense, it's going to exhaust you. And at the end of the day, as a man, you want peace, not war. And that's my commentary for this edition of the 411 Talk Zone radio show. If you like what I just presented, please comment, share, and subscribe. Once again, my name is Leon Jones. I'm out.